Topic 2, Educator Representation. This question is based on data from the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education School District Profiles. In the 2023 school year, most of the municipalities in the 5th Middlesex District had no teachers who identified as Black. In this chart, you can see the percent of Black teachers and percent of Black students in the 5th Middlesex District school districts. The percent of Black teachers are the red bars, and the percent of Black students are in the blue bars. We show the percents for each of the municipalities in the 5th Middlesex District, and again, the Massachusetts percents are available on the far right for comparison. This is a loss for all students and is especially harmful for our Black students. Research shows that when Black students have Black teachers, they are more likely to thrive academically and less likely to be suspended. Question 2. In your role as senator, what will you do to hire more Black teachers and to increase the number of Black students who seek a career in teaching?
So this next question also speaks directly to what I care so passionately about as a state representative around educator diversity. There is incredible research that demonstrates that students of color really thrive academically and have demonstrable positive impacts when they have teachers who reflect their own background. And so, not having enough teachers of color to reflect what the student population looks like is holding our kids back. We know that about half of students in Massachusetts public schools are students of color, but only about 10% of educators are. So that's why I was thrilled to support the Educator Diversity Act that was signed into law in the last legislative session. It does so many things. It makes sure that we have new licensure pathways for teachers. It creates a pilot apprenticeship program. It ensures that districts have diversity plans, DEI leadership, and important professional development. There's also a critical component around data collection so we can measure the impact of this type of policy and think about ways to continue to ensure fidelity to it. In this session, I've been proud to partner with Latinos for Education to file proposals for early college programs specifically to support students of color who are interested in being classroom leaders down the road. I've also supported the Teach for America program, which is the second largest preparation program now in Massachusetts for onboarding teachers of color, which has been so important. So I'll continue to look for opportunities to partner with important nonprofit organizations, preparation programs, and school districts in seeing this work to the finish line as your next state senator.
Question 2. What would I do as a state senator to increase the number of Black teachers and Black students who seek a career in teaching? Again, a great question that is so clear in the data that we're looking at what a big need there is. And in Malden, again, we have the most diverse community and maybe the most Black teachers, but 3% is far from actual representation. So what can we do about it? The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education just released a report this summer that gives a lot of recommendations, everything from incentives and tuition and loan repayment to compensation. And so I think we're going to dig into those things next year in the next legislative session. I commit to being an active participant and sponsoring bills based on those conversations. And I want to focus on a couple things that I think are really important. One is that if you come from a community or family where you don't have the resources to take on loans to begin with, then it can be really hard to get through to make good on those loan repayment programs. So having programs that are pathways that start with that recruitment allows you to work with community organizations like the NAACP to make sure that folks are thinking about that at the student level. Then if you have alternative pathways to licensure, folks may not have to take on that level of debt. They may be able to get their license or their degree while they're teaching, which allows folks who have different life circumstances to participate. And then being able to support folks who actually make it to the classroom. It can be really tough to be the only, I've often been the first, the youngest, the only person of color, and it can be really isolating. So making sure that teachers are connected to each other. This is a great place where we could work more closely with unions who can support their members in a different kind of way than the state can or than the district can. And so I'd love to see that collaboration in addition to community groups. I'm very proud to be endorsed by the Boston Teachers Union, the biggest educator local in the state, because I support the success of educators across the spectrum. But making sure those pathways exist to support people. And when you don't come from a lot of money, as like I didn't, my family didn't have a lot of money. I went to inner city public schools. I made it through college on scholarship. I went to grad school, at night school, and just having those pathways that you can count on are so important for making new things seem possible. One other thing that I'll note is that it's not only teacher representation, it's also curriculum representation. Making sure that you as a student can see yourself and in the stories and the authors that you're reading. I know I didn't always have that. And that makes you feel empowered to be a part of the educational process. I went and read a book to a diverse classroom in an elementary school in Malden, and it was about having a name that people couldn't pronounce and about how the kid learns to stick up for themselves. And the students wrote me letters back about how much that meant because they had a different name. And just being able to have someone share that to them was so empowering.
Growing up, I had amazing teachers, and when I was considering this question, I realized that I really only had one black teacher in my experience. But more personally, I remember having LGBTQ and gay teachers that, having those people in my life as kind of role models helped me kind of on my own journey when it comes to being an LGBTQ person. So I think this is a really important conversation to have, and I appreciate the question. Um, you know, in Malden, personally, I fought to preserve, DEI positions in Malden, including language access, which our administration, unfortunately, was proposing to completely axe. We were able to bring those back, and that's a huge point of pride for me. Standing up with our communities to make sure that we do preserve these. I fought for language access and translation in City Hall when we were building a new City Hall. And in my own personal journey, I've attended trainings with like Malden Core, which is the community organizing for racial equity, and I've learned about saviorism and intersectionality. As the first openly LGBTQ elected official in Malden's history, I understand what it's to be marginalized, but that doesn't mean that my marginalization is the same as someone else's. And these things are still happening to the LGBTQ community, as well as people of color in all communities. When it comes to incentivizing teachers of color, I think that we need to make sure that the experience is good for students of color who are there. If we want to recruit students to become teachers, we have to really understand like what is their experience going to be like when they're actually in school. Do they want to return to that environment? No one wants to return to a toxic environment. So I do believe it's essential that we make sure that the experience for students is great, so they want to come back and maybe be teachers. It reminds me of Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley saying of start by connecting with those who are closest to the pain because they're going to be closest to the solution. So education is a cornerstone of my campaign. So I believe improving student outcomes is essential, and that is the first step to actually helping build a pipeline for educators who come from the district. There are some like specific examples. There are today's students, tomorrow's teachers program. Grow your own teachers. There are ways in which we can help elevate these programs, whether it be funding or just me using my ability to convene and connect. But I would be in this fight in a in a way that is authentic and not performative, which I think is just so essential when it comes to working in these spaces. Thank you.